Welcome to CIA Declassified. Every agent knows the protocol. If captured, reveal nothing. But what if the agency couldn't trust the will of the human spirit? What if there was a failsafe, a mental tripwire designed to eliminate the asset and critically the information they carried? This is Project Psychic Wreckage, and this is the story of MK Ultra Subproject 16. Commissioned in 1956, its goal was chillingly simple: the development of terminal psychological deterrents. The documentation, primarily found in CIA MKUL 16, RPT 45A, lays out the logic: create a psychological state so unbearable that the subject would choose oblivion over collaboration. Subproject 16 operated on a three-phase model detailed in the introductory memo of the CIA file. Degrade, introduce, trigger. Degrade. Phase 1. The subject's reality must be first dismantled. This involved extreme sensory deprivation, sleep deprivation, and sustained periods of isolation. The goal was to reach a state of absolute psychological malleability. The document emphasizes the necessity of reducing the subject's cognitive resistance to that of a 7-year-old child. 2. Introduce. Phase 2. During peak degradation, the deterrent is introduced, a psychological command linked to a physical sensation and chemical agent. 3. Trigger. Phase 3. The deployment of a specific linguistic or auditory signal, the trigger word, during capture or interrogation to activate the deterrent. The lead researcher, identified only by the pseudonym Dr. S in the declassified summary, wrote in CIA MKUL 16 RPT 45A, quote, "The optimal deterrent is not physical pain, but the absolute annihilation of self-identity. The subject must associate the trigger with a psychological black hole from which no return is possible," end quote. The physical component of the deterrent was a chemical agent, internally codenamed Compound S7. Though the formula is heavily redacted, the effects are documented in CIA MKUL 16 MEM08. S7 was designed to induce acute instant onset delirium and vertigo, but only when combined with the specific auditory trigger. The trigger was not a word, but a specific arrangement of tones, a digital sequence. When the subject's brain registered this tone sequence, the latent S7, which was likely stored in fatty tissue and released upon neural command, would flood the system, leading to a terminal psychological break. The intent was to render the subject incoherent, catatonic, or suicidal within 60 seconds. Now we get to the core of the ongoing secrets. When reviewing the Subproject 16 files, one section related to the initial, quote, "successful," end quote, field test is almost entirely covered in black ink. The redactions here are deep and strategic, covering 3 pages of what appears to be clinical logs. Redaction hypothesis number 1, the identity of test subjects, highest priority. The most intense blackouts surround the demographic section of the early trials. We hypothesized that these were not unwitting U.S. citizens, but highly valuable foreign intelligence assets, individuals from allied nations or opposition groups, whose use as human guinea pigs would lead to catastrophic diplomatic fallout if their names were ever revealed. The continued protection of these identities maintains international stability. Redaction hypothesis number 2, the formula for compound S7, technical secrecy. While the effects are described, the chemical composition of S7 is scrubbed clean. The formula likely involves a unique blend of neurotoxins and rapid-acting hallucinogens that the CIA considers a persistent viable asset in their chemical arsenal. They are protecting the intellectual property of weaponized delirium. The logs from 1957 clearly state the subjects who underwent the full 3-phase process were never, quote, recovered, end quote, meaning they either succumbed to the deterrent or remained in a permanent catatonic state, classified internally as, quote, permanent psychological wreckage, end quote. The project succeeded not in creating a controllable agent, but in demonstrating the CIA's capacity for total irreparable destruction of the human psyche. This failure of recovery led to a major strategic pivot within the program, detailed in our next section. Officially, Subproject 16 was marked as, quote, successful, end quote, in 1959. Yet it failed to create a deployable, retrievable agent. So, where was the success? The declassified file reveals a fascinating conclusion. The success was not in the terminal deterrent, but in the permanent compartmentalization. The CIA realized that the extreme degradation phase 1, was highly effective at achieving one critical goal, implanting information in a specific walled-off section of the brain, a true mental black box. After the subject was brought back from the edge of psychosis, they had no conscious memory of the information implanted, nor of the degradation process itself. The success was not the kill switch, but the permanent silence. They created a system where an agent could carry highly sensitive data, like dead drops, contact names, or nuclear codes, but genuinely possess no conscious access to it. Under interrogation, the agent could honestly state they knew nothing, because the data was sealed off behind the deterrent mechanism. The terminal trigger was simply the insurance policy to ensure the wall never came down. This is the true terrifying legacy of Subproject 16, weaponized selective amnesia for operational security. This repurposed success immediately led to the adoption of the Phase 1 degradation techniques across multiple other MKUltra subprojects, focusing on making high-value assets fundamentally untraceable. The document CIA MKUL-OPS 60C explicitly mentions the interrogation of Subproject 16 protocols into post-operational debriefings for agents returning from high-risk environments. This integration ensured that if those agents were ever compromised decades later, they could not recall the details of their mission, protecting the long-term integrity of the agency's secrets. The knowledge gained from intentionally fracturing the human mind became the bedrock of advanced psychological security, a terrifying irony of using madness to achieve perfect security. We have exposed how the CIA used permanent psychological destruction as a success metric. I'll see you in the archives. Remember to like this project and subscribe to the feed for surprises. We've explored the final frontier of psychological security. Next time we move to a different type of control. We open the file on MKUltra Subproject 115. This project abandoned chemical warfare for pure sensory attack, using synchronized photosimulation in specific binaural beat frequencies to induce immediate disassociation and compliance in subjects. We examined the logbooks detailing how the CIA attempted to create a, quote, truth machine, end quote, using nothing but intense flashing light and carefully tuned sound. Can a strobe light be weaponized into a form of torture? Stay tuned for the next episode, but I'm going to say here the answer is yes.